such a busy living so bomb, busy living so bomb, busy living so bomb. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited you guys are all here. Thank you. If you're here for the first time, welcome. If you're back, good to see you. I'm so excited that I have Annika Carroll on the show today. She is the host of Sleep Like a Boss. And I found Annika one of those mornings that I got up early and I was on YouTube and I'm just like, you just get on these loops and you just go down these different rabbit holes. I say just all these different rabbit holes. And sleep is such a big thing. And as I was saying to Annika, I just had a bunch of girlfriends in town. I've had a bunch of people coming in and a common theme from everyone is sleep and lack of, and what can I do? And then I have to just use a little, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening, you're gonna have to go see it on YouTube if you want to see me. The Mayo Clinic just sent me yesterday. Look at this. 3 surprising daytime habits that affect your sleep at night. So this is obviously a problem. If the Mayo Clinic probably spent this is a huge envelope, look at this, and all this PR stuff to send. I didn't get a chance to read it, of course, but I was like, oh my gosh, and here we are. You got to tell us, for one, why did you start this podcast and why is sleep so important to you personally?
Well, funny story, I actually didn't start the podcast myself. I inherited it from somebody who was a sleep coach, and I joined her team, and she decided to not be a sleep coach anymore. And I took over that company, Sleep Like a Boss, and it came with a podcast. And I'm loving that. I love podcasting, meeting people, we talk about all kinds of things, sleep, but from a holistic perspective. So that means not just turn your phone off, keep your bedroom dark. Yes, there's validity to that, but we also talk a lot about health, because a lot of how healthy your body is affects how well you sleep or you don't sleep. And that's how I work on with my clients. So that's what I talk about on the podcast. And I used to be a rock star sleeper. Like in my 20s and 30s, I would go and hit the pillow at night and be up before the alarm. And it was awesome. And then, I think the first time was like, once you have kids and they don't sleep, right, when they're tiny, then kind of all gets thrown out the window. And then I burnt myself out. I went back to work and was super busy and got really ill and couldn't sleep anymore. And I didn't understand it. I was like, if I'm exhausted, like so exhausted that I cannot get out of bed or off the couch, like I'm having panic attacks, I'm having anxiety, all these things. Like, why can't I just sleep and get rest? And it took doctors who couldn't figure it out. It took naturopathic doctors who helped a little but couldn't figure it out. And then I went and found somebody who was in functional health and looked at everything that was going on in my body. And we put the puzzle pieces together and I got better and I slept. And I was like, well, that is the one thing that I felt helped me the most. Well, everybody needs to do it. Like this, I'm sleeping when I'm dead. Sorry, I think doesn't work. And if people want to heal and if people want to get better, sleeping is like the foundational piece to get better, because that's when your body does it, healing, right? When we're resting. And if we can't do that, then we're just so struggling with healing journeys. And that's why, and then I see most of my clients are women, and I see them because we struggle so much, right? We juggle so many things, family, job, parents, maybe, like we start taking care of aging parents, elderly, sick parents, maybe, or you have, like I do, special needs child, like, we're working. It's just, there's so many balls we're keeping in the air. And if we're not sleeping, we're just burning out. And then comes perimenopause and menopause, and then the whole thing goes out the window anyways, the sleep, right? And then we need to just help women through that.
And what was your job previously?
I was in corporate human resources. I worked for Johnson & Johnson for 15 years as a senior HR manager. And I worked on helping people with resilience and stress management and all that, and burnt myself out. Didn't put that together so well, what I taught there, but no, it was just, I think there was a point where it was just too much, and where my body just said, you're ignoring every red flag I'm waving at you, and now there you have it.
Well, it's so interesting because, I feel like for me, when I was drinking, drinking was like a big thing that people would use to go to sleep, right? I'm going
Mhm.
to have a glass of wine. I'm going to go to
Mhm.
sleep. And life is so stressful today. We are expected to be, it was funny when I was growing up, like in the 70s, there'd be the commercial with the lady with the stiletto heels on, and she'd have the apron and she'd walk in the door. I can make up the bacon, da-na-na-na-na, and fry it up in a pan, da-na-na-na-na. And, and that whole spiel that was going on. And I feel like it gave women this pressure to think that, oh my gosh, I have to go look like $1,000,000, be wearing great shoes, dressed like, dressed fabulously, able to cater to all of my kids' needs, be there for my partner, spouse, whatever it is, whoever that person is, and go out and have this successful job. And I can do it all and just look like $1,000,000. And it's like, wait a minute. Wait, 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 wait. And for me, it was going, I've heard Deepak Chopra numerous times talk about sleep being so important. And I'm 55. So I've been dealing for the past 5 years of these up and downs with the perimenopause and the menopause you spoke about. And at one point, I was like taking a Benadryl, right? Because I'm like, okay, I cannot sleep. I am up and down. It's 2 a.m., it's 3 a.m. Why is that? Why are people waking up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning? I mean, you can again go like I did on YouTube and found you, but why is that happening? Is our brains just not stopping?
There's, for some people, that is the case. Yeah, it could be stress and anxiety for sure. And that you kind of, because we all connect sleep cycles, right? Like we go through several sleep cycles a night, and the way you connect them, there is a tiny bit of waking in between them. So if we went in a sleep lab, we would actually see that. Even the people who are like, my husband's like, I don't wake up. No, you do, honey. If we put you in a sleep lab, I could show you that there is these micro wakings. And sometimes you know it because you remember, oh, I just rolled over, tucked myself back in, but I fell right back to sleep. And sometimes that doesn't happen, right? And that could be, if you're stressed and you're anxious, that just that moment where you're kind of conscious, you start thinking about, oh my God, I forgot to do this, right? And then you're up. Your body's like, hello, here come your adrenaline, you're up. But for a lot of people, it could be blood sugar. That's something that women, men too, but women, I think more, the older we get, we kind of start, our body composition starts changing. A lot of us might start kind of changing our diet because we're like, I don't like that midsection weight, so I'm going to start dieting to a degree, or changing my, and then our blood sugar often isn't stable. We might not be eating enough at the right times, and then our blood sugar might drop too low at night, and our body thinks we're dying. Like it's literally like, wake up, eat. You just have not enough energy. So that could be something. Um, Another thing that I often see is gut issues. Parasites, believe it or not. People are like, ew, I don't have parasites. Yeah, well, you look on people's stool tests, because that's what I do, and you'll find some fun stuff. So, and right while we're recording this, it's full moon, so people would be potentially triggered by that because parasites are very active during that time specifically. And another thing is liver. And if we're talking about alcohol, that's huge. The liver detoxes all day, right? That's its job. But specifically, if you look at it from a Chinese medicine perspective, between like 1 and 3 a.m. is liver time. And that is where the liver is specifically active. And if your liver struggles for whatever reason, you can wake up because that stresses the system. And why would the liver be stressed, right? Well, because we've been throwing a lot of things at the liver in our lifetime that it had to deal with. The older we get, and I see this in clients who are in their late 30s, early 40s. The older we get, the more we've kind of been thrown at in terms of, being in pesticides, herbicides, the stuff that's in our food, medications that we're taking, over-the-counter stuff, painkillers that we might be taking, Benadryl, right? The aspirins of the world, the birth controls of the world, alcohol, because alcohol is the biggest toxin to the body from a body perspective, right? So if we drink alcohol, the body's like, oh, guys, we got to detoxify this. We need to get this out of the system. The body knows it's not great for the system. So it will stop everybody else. The aspirin, the birth control, all of that gets lined up, so to say, and alcohol comes first. And alcohol gets detoxified, and then the body will do the rest. But during that time, while it's doing the red wine, it doesn't have capacity to do the other things. And that can then start recirculating in the system. And maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 nights won't have that big of an impact, depending on what your overall toxic load is already. But if you're doing that for months or years on end, and it doesn't even have to be every night, right? Like, who doesn't go out Friday nights with friends and drink a glass of something, right? We aren't even talking bottles of wine here. Like, it doesn't have to be that much. There's just so much other stuff in the system that the body just has a limited capacity. And at some point it will start recirculating. And at some point the liver just says, I would just like some help. That doesn't mean that our liver is broken or is malfunctioning from a medical perspective. Like, your doctor might run tests and say, oh yeah, looks fine. Liver markers are still good. I'm not worried about it. But you're not feeling well and you're waking up in the middle of the night. And maybe you have other symptoms, that you are sensitive to chemicals or smells, or you're a very angry person, or things like that, that we would use from a functional perspective as symptoms to say, you know what, let's support your liver a little. And that will likely help. And well, yeah, and taking the alcohol out at that point would be the first one.
Well, it's so interesting that you said that, because I've had guests on before that have said, you put alcohol in your system. Now, I never thought about this back in the day. Okay. Never, ever, ever did I think, oh my God, I would think I'm young or whatever, and I'm drinking and it's not really hurting anybody. It's not, because no one ever says anything about our livers, right? There's no Surgeon General's warning on a bottle of booze like there is, or a bottle of wine like there is on cigarettes, right? But it's killing just as many people, right? Probably even more. And I didn't understand that, like, your body literally, that first sip, your liver goes, wait a minute, hello, you're poisoning me. I had no
And there
idea.
is, there is that discussion about, like, oh yeah, there's these polyphenols in red wine, like the red stuff that's good for you, right? Blah, blah. Yeah, but there's the alcohol part to it, right? And the alcohol also wrecks your gut microbiome because it's a disinfectant, kind of, if you want to look at it that way, right? So it alters your gut microbiome. You need healthy gut microbiome to sleep well, to digest well, to have a good metabolism, to be healthy, right? All these things, like alcohol has huge effects. And women always say, and that's not wrong, because you were saying that, like, women often use that glass of Merlot or whatever it is to decompress from the day, right? Wind down and get into that rest state so they can fall asleep. That is not wrong. Like, there have been studies that show that specifically for women, if they drink a glass of wine at night, that will help them fall asleep faster. But the overall quality of sleep that night is worse than it is with alcohol, because it affects your deep sleep in a negative way, which is that first part earlier in the night when we're really rebuilding cells and tissues and cleaning out the body. And it affects your REM sleep. So that dream sleep later, when you consolidate memory and when your emotions regulate, both of those get heavily affected. And some of the hormones that should get cleaned out while you sleep don't, because of the alcohol. And that hangover that people often have in the morning is not necessarily, I had too much alcohol, because women are like, I had one glass of wine, there's no way I should be having a hangover. Yes, because it's not the alcohol that did it, but it's those other hormones that were supposed to lower while you're sleeping, but because your sleep sucked, which you didn't really know because you were sedated, because that's what the alcohol does with sleep. It doesn't, it's like a sleeping pill in the end. It sedates you. It doesn't give you quality sleep. That is that hangover. It's that hormone that you were supposed to get rid of in your sleep that you didn't because the alcohol blocked your actual sleep.
It's so fascinating because who would ever thought? I mean, I never knew growing up. It's not like you're growing up and your mom's saying to you, when you go to sleep, you know that's the time for your
Yeah.
entire body to flush everything out and start fresh the next day.
Yeah.
And if you put all these things in it, like it hurts your brain, it hurts your gut, as you mentioned, it hurts your liver. And this is for men too, because
Yes.
because it's really interesting. I put something up on a couple weeks ago about what alcohol does to your body. And a gentleman said on there, he said, men don't get to talk about it as much as women, which I think is so interesting because here we are constantly talking about women. We're finally coming out saying, we've got all these issues. We want to talk about it so we don't feel so crazy and alone, right? And men are kind of like, well, wait a minute.
Where's my platform? Yeah.
Where's my platform? And I'm alone. And I feel like, wait a minute, this is happening to me. I'm overindulging. I'm not sleeping either.
Oh
Because
yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's and I do have male clients too. I just market more towards women, but I agree men have uh similar issues often. It's just that certain things work differently in men and women, right? We're not as the same as often it's set to be. Like I think we're starting to understand that women are very different from men, but can men have issues with sleep because of alcohol, because of blood sugar, because of gut microbiome? For sure. But they might just present a little differently. Do they often drink? And maybe sometimes it's not the wine, maybe sometimes it's the beer, right? Do they maybe do things a bit differently, or grab other things to soothe the nervous system? Maybe, right? Um, but yes, in the end, it is that both men and women struggle. It's just that women tend to be affected by insomnia a little more statistically than men. And I think the reason for that is that the interplay of hormones is just different in women than it is in men. And yes, men go through andropause, so testosterone will go down. That can also have an effect on sleep, while women go through menopause. But just because we have the monthly fluctuations for 40 years, which men don't, because testosterone just gets released on a daily basis. That on top affects it. Then you throw a pregnancy in there where everything gets messed up in that way from a hormonal perspective, right? Finding that rhythm again. Then thyroid is something that men struggle with as well as women, but often women, I think, struggle a little more with it than men, and all those things can affect it too. So yes, men should have a platform for that, and I would advocate for them for that, but statistically there's more women struggling with it.
well, and I can totally agree because and again, I don't know if it's my husband or my kids that don't really complain as much as I do or my friends do about, like, hello, wait a minute, I'm not sleeping enough. And I always say that if mom isn't okay, nobody's okay. Let's just
Yeah,
face it, because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we set the
absolutely.
tone.
Yeah.
We set the tone for everything. So on this journey and finding out all this stuff, for one, it's totally alarming in some ways. You're like, wait a minute, what have I been doing my whole life? I'm just like thinking all this stuff is okay. I'm picking up an Oreo or Dorito or just eating on the run, which is what we all do because it's so hard, right? It's just like, how am I even going to eat? I know a lot of young moms that go and buy those Lunchables. And I'm like, oh my God, they're full of sodium. What are you doing? What are you doing? But they're like, well, what do you expect me to do? I just have no time. I'm picking them up from school. I've got a business meeting, then they've got soccer or whatever it is. And what is your advice to those moms that are out there, or those women that are out there that are feeling like, oh my gosh, all I'm doing is running from here to there to here to there, and I'm exhausted. I cannot even think to, like, go to the grocery store and go get a meal that I'm gonna prepare. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. What do you say to them?
Well, I think you have to realistically look at your day, right? And if you feel that you're starting to fall off, It's too much. And if, like you said, if you don't function, if you, nobody else is, nothing else is going to work downstream. So we have to get you to function. And might that mean making things simpler? Might that mean asking for help? Might that mean dropping 1 or 2 balls that are not made of glass and will not crack when they hit the floor, but they're rubber balls? Right? Like a bouncy thing. Then we can maybe do that. So I think that's really, if we, and we need to really ask, I think, ourselves, why is it like that? Is it us who want? Because when I grew up, I'm turning 44 in a few weeks. So when I grew up, yes, did we have activities as kids that my parents needed to drop us off at? Yeah, but it wasn't like it is now. It wasn't that insane. We had 1 or 2 things in parallel. So, but what I mean, like Monday was the one thing and
Yeah.
Thursday was the other. And not Monday was 3 things and Tuesday was 3. So I think really looking at where are you in your life? Does that work for you? And that might sound hard, but like it's apparently it's not. If you feel like you're burning out, it's not just that we can throw supplements at you to make you go longer. Can we do that? Yeah, for sure we can do that, but that's gonna get you this far, right? But really assessing what's your day like? Are you, as the mom, eating and drinking? Are you really doing the basic things to, and this is just keep your blood sugar stable, have a small breakfast that has protein in it, make sure you drink water or like healthy electrolytes, not like the Gatorade stuff, but like healthy things that keep you going. Don't skip meals. Like even if you have small things that you can prep or that you can grab, like to bring, make sure you do that. Make sure when you drop your kids off, and sometimes I see moms, they're like, yeah, but I'm sitting at the soccer field for like an hour. Well, okay, if that's the commitment that you've given, but that's an hour for you to maybe not do anything for 10 minutes. Like literally don't scroll on your phone. Just sit outside or go for a quick walk around the field if you can, just to move, get some fresh air, get some sun, give the brain a break, and not do anything. 5, 10 minutes. That's a start, right? We don't need to meditate for half an hour. We just need to start small and use those little spots that give you breaks to actually take them. And I think the other thing is, what can you make simpler? Can you order your groceries? Like just to pick an example, right? Like, can we meal plan as a family for 10 minutes on Sunday what we want to have during the week? Everybody's involved here. Then we go online, put that order in, and we have it delivered. Or we do that Saturday so it comes on Sunday. So you're still there, right? And then we maybe cut up a little bit of stuff, put it in the fridge, and make sure we have some stuff just to get you through a few days in the week. Is that something that's an option for you? If you're somebody who orders in food a lot, because a lot of people go do that, right? Or drive by the drive-through and pick up something. Actually look at what you're spending and look at if a meal service, because there are great, especially in the US, there are great meal delivery services that make really healthy, fun stuff. Is that an option for 2, 3 nights a week for your family? Because you're already spending, I don't know, $50, $60 at the drive-through for people. Why not look what an actual meal that has nutrition costs if it was delivered to your house and then it's ready to go? Like I think it doesn't have to be crazy super. Would it be great if we all home cooked and had, right? Yeah, but is it realistic for everybody? No, it's not. And then we need to find the second best option, but we sometimes just need to, I think, sit and take it to like actually take an account of what are we doing right now? Where are we spending our time? How are we feeding ourselves? Is that working? Is that not working? And what are simple things to just make it a little better for everybody?
Well, I love that you are giving people permission. Do you guys hear this? She is giving you permission to drop 2 balls, maybe 3, and let them go. Reevaluate. Take time to breathe. take time to walk. And I want to ask you, this is of someone I had on the show. She's a comedian and she's a little bit young. She's probably more closer to your age. And she was talking about some like everybody walking around with these water bottles that weigh 800 pounds and the Stanleys. Like, oh my gosh, is everybody into the Stanleys? And now it's like happening in elementary school. Like, who has a Stanley? Who doesn't have a Stanley? It's so crazy. And I can say I was born in 1968. We did not drink water. Okay. I'm just going to tell you, we did not drink water. It was not like a thing that you did. It was like you had milk when you had dinner, you went home. Maybe if you had something to drink, it was like, I don't even remember drinking. Okay. When I was a little kid, besides, I don't remember. I don't remember my mom being like, make sure you have your water. I remember having milk and going through
Mhm.
gallons of milk growing up in our house. But when did this need for water happen and why is it happening? And I heard somewhere that like you drink all this water and most of the time, let's just face it, we're in the loo or the head or whatever you want to call the ladies room or men's room constantly anyway. So you're not really even it's not even getting absorbed from the body. So why do we need all this water? What is up with that, Annika? I don't understand.
Well, I think if you just drink water and people are like gallons a day, I'm like, or a gallon, I'm like, oh my God, that's way too much. Um, and I would always add something like electrolytes or a little bit of salt so the body actually absorbs it, because otherwise, yes, you're just flushing through the system. I think a lot of people are dehydrated. And if you're tired, that's the first thing I would check. Have I had water? Or am I just dehydrated? I think we're eating so many processed foods that are just bone dry. Chips, muffins, bagels. Like there is nothing in there that is water. So your body just doesn't get any hydration. Yes, it does get some from coffee. Yes, it would get some from orange juice. Depending on how much of that you drink, you might fill your need of liquid intake for sure. But is that something that, like the sugar, the caffeine, if we're not sleeping, I would tone that. I'm not saying you can't drink it. I would just tone it down a little, but then you need to replace it with something. And if we really want to flush the system, which I think is important, like we need to get stuff moving. So many people are constipated. Like, are you drinking anything? Like, just give the system a little bit of water here and there. Then you're going to be fine. And then you do see a lot of people who work out, right? Okay, so if we sweat, we also need to replace what we just lost.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned something earlier, which is something that I have tried many times, and I do it today. I'm like, yesterday, somebody said to me, "Well, did you have any breakfast?" And I said, "Oh, well, I don't really eat anything until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon." And they're like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, because I'm constantly intermittent fasting." And so many people have come out recently and said, "Oh, you should intermittent fast. It's so great for you. You need to do it." Is that true? Especially for women. And I heard a guest on your podcast say something to the effect that if you are going to intermittent fast, have it start in the morning and end earlier in the day. So let's
That,
say
yeah,
I heard somebody say that on your show a couple weeks ago that you know what actually you need to start in the morning, like your morning will be your 8 hour or how many hours you're going to eat for the day. You start that first thing in the morning, and so by 6 o'clock you're done with food for the day. Is that true? What are your thoughts on this intermittent fasting?
yeah, I think that's the question. I think, is it true? Is
Yeah.
something that depends on the person, where they're at in their life, if their body can deal with it. Um, I think the general population eats for too long while they're awake.
What does that mean? What
So
do
a
you
lot of
mean?
people, they eat breakfast and they eat lunch or they snack a lot, and then they have dinner and then they snack, and then they go to bed.
Yeah.
So that, I think, that's my personal opinion. I know a lot of people would support that in the functional community. That is too much. Your body needs to digest and have rest and not be constantly stuffed with food. Um, So does that generally mean that and then if we're talking about sleep, and I think that's why she said it, you were talking probably about that I had a circadian rhythm specialist
Yes,
on.
yes.
Yes. And if we talk about sleep, you will hear the rule of don't eat 3 hours before bed because we want digestion to be mostly done by the time we go to bed. Yes. What that means is um no heavy meals. Like you don't want to have a big fat greasy dinner and then go to bed an hour or two later. You're likely not going to sleep very well, which might be something you might not notice right away, but if we actually track the sleep or we look at sleep quality, it will be affected. So earlier dinners are generally, from a sleep perspective, are generally better. So with that, if you wanted to intermittent fast, yes, you would move that forward. So you still have enough time in the day to get your calories in. Um, am I a fan personally? Am I a fan of intermittent fasting with my clients that I see? Mostly no. For two reasons. One is I think if you are a female who is still menstruating, so you're not postmenopausal, you have to be careful when you intermittent fast. If you go 16-8, so you're not eating for 16-8, you eat for 8 hours, but you're trying to actually, like, at post ovulation, and you're trying to actually have a uterine lining build, and you're trying to, yes, you might not want to be pregnant, but your cycle is a vitality sign. Intermittent fasting can be too stressful for the body. You might not be getting what you need for healthy periods. And that can be an issue, not just for sleep, but for lots of other things. So if you're still menstruating, there's some rules on when to intermittent fast and when not. If you're postmenopausal, that's a little different. The body just works a little different because we don't have that hormonal fluctuation like that anymore. So the body deals with it better. Is it great for people with blood sugar struggles? Often, yes. It helps to balance blood sugar for people often very quickly. But the other reason I often don't like it for my clients is because they're not sleeping. So we often have an adrenal issue. So they're often either they're pumping out too much cortisol, they're stressed, and intermittent fasting releases cortisol. It will stress your body. Or they're already so tanked because they haven't slept for so long that they're what we would call, the term's not quite correct, but adrenal fatigue is what a lot of people know it under, that you're just brutally exhausted and your body doesn't release enough cortisol. And for those people, intermittent fasting is killer. Like, it's just too much. They're not in a state of their life at that point where they can do it. That doesn't mean they can get back to it or get to it at some point later. Just if I look at their cortisol and it's not where it needs to be, then I would say stay away from it. I always want them to do what I would call restrictive eating windows. So I want to have a 12 to 13 hour break in between your last meal and your first meal, but not more than that. I wouldn't stretch it in those cases to like 16 hours. I would try and get them to 12 to 13, which often for people is already like, oh my God, I eat till 10, like I have my last snack at 10 and now you want me to not eat till, and then we have to see what they're like. If their adrenals are really tanked, I want them to eat very early in the morning after they wake up already, just to get the system supported. And if they wake up in the middle of the night because of blood sugar issues, we might even temporarily put a snack before dinner in to get them over that drop in blood sugar, to get them sleeping, because if we don't get them sleeping, we won't be able to stabilize the blood sugar. So it's a very nuanced and very individual discussion. So I think it's like, is intermittent fasting good or bad? It depends on the person.
Well, we're not robots. As much as our
Yeah.
society today wants to treat us like we're robots, like we're each the exact same, we are not. Do you find more people have a harder time going to sleep or waking up in the middle of the night?
Waking up. I think there's a lot more people who have issues waking up and not being able to fall back asleep. And a lot of times, I think it's just pure exhaustion that puts them to sleep. But then the system revs up, and then we need to look at what that is. But I would say a lot more people struggle with, at least from the people that I've seen and I've talked to, I would say a lot more people struggle with waking up.
So if somebody is wanting to like before they call you, and if they, and I mean, I'm going to have all of your information in the description. You guys are going to be able to reach out to Annika and get the help you need. But if somebody's there and they're like, I just really miss dreaming, and I really miss like just feeling like I wake up so and I feel so refreshed in the morning, and I haven't for so long, I feel like it's unattainable. What would be the first thing you would tell them to do?
The first thing I tell them to do is when you wake up in the morning, within 30 minutes of waking up, go outside for 10 minutes. Get natural light in your eyes. Before you look at your screens, go and catch, if it's the sunrise, that'd be amazing. If that doesn't fit your schedule because you don't wake up at that time, but it's a little brighter, go outside, go around the block for 10 minutes, no sunglasses on. Get that natural light because that sets your timer for the day. Your brain and your body operate on what angle the light falls into your eye, and it sets hormone release. So your cortisol will get released in the morning, which we want. We want a good amount of cortisol so we are up for the day and have energy. It sets the timer to say in 14 to 16 hours, release melatonin so I can go to sleep. And all your other hormones also get set through that light signal. So that is the first thing. And if you do that for a couple of days, you'll see more energy. You'll see that afternoon slump go away. So you don't need the sugar and the caffeine to make it tonight, which is going to wreck your sleep anyhow. Really, really do that. I know people often struggle with, but if you have a dog, awesome, then you're probably, maybe you're already doing it. If not, just go outside. And if you live somewhere where you're like, no, at that time of the day, I really don't want to walk around outside, which is fair. Open your window all the way and sit by the window and actually look at the sky. Get that natural light because we all are surrounded by so much technology, so much fake light, like the screens and the LED lighting and everything that just really messes with our sleep wake cycles.
I love that because that's what I in the morning, I get up and I go stand in my grass. I mean, luckily, I live in
Yeah,
South Florida where it's
awesome.
80 most of the year or higher. And, just starting the day doing that. And I never knew, and I've heard that so much these days is like really just like the light that comes off from all these things that we have, these computers we walk around with in our hands all day long, the watches we wear, all these lights that like we just need to get outside
Yeah.
and be with the basics. It's so interesting because today, who would have ever thought that we would have overcomplicated ourselves and our bodies to the point that we are constantly in fight or flight? I mean, somebody even wrote about, the non-anxious life, like this anxiety word that everybody uses. Like it's literally every person is like, I have anxiety, I have anxiety. I remember I'd never heard the word. I mean, I'd heard the word anxiety in a book, but not from another
You can,
human
yeah.
expressing that was what was going on with them. And today, every person says that. So it's kind of like getting rid of, it's not bringing in more of these things. It's like getting rid of them, right?
Ideally, be getting rid of them. And if you see things like this, the biohacking community, right? Like people who try to optimize their life for like lifespan or whatever, but all they do is getting back to the basics. Stick your feet in the sand or on the grass, get light, avoid lights at night, like going back to where we were probably thousands of years ago, but we just like we've advanced, right? So really not bring more in or consciously bring things in and consciously stop them at certain points, like the screening on your phone in bed, like the just first thing in the morning reading your emails, like all these things. No, just get into the day with some light a little slowly and end the day without the light and a little slowly. And that already will give people so much more calm and so much more energy throughout the day and just better sleep over time.
And I'm going to end with this. So, what about the people like me who recently went to a Kindle? Because I'm going to be, this is how bad it, because at night, if you have a big book and you fall asleep, it does hurt when it hits your nose. You're like, oh my gosh, it just hurt me. I want something that's really light when we're traveling. We don't want to bring, I used to bring everybody used to bring, you're going on vacation, you pack up like 10 books. You're like, oh, I'm going to get to every one of these books while I'm on vacation. and they're heavy and you're carrying 'em, and so then the world came out with this Kindle, and I've always wondered, the light from a Kindle, is that just as bad as the one from, like, an iPad or something? What are your thoughts on that?
They claim it's not. I haven't seen studies. I don't, and I used to have a Kindle, the white, and it does read differently. It does read more like a book. I would say it's probably better than an iPad. Um, the thing that I would potentially look into is, do people have, like, I don't even know if they sell them now, if they sell screens for the Kindle.
Oh,
You know how
yeah.
you buy
Yeah.
these clear filters for, I have a clear
Yes.
filter on my phone. Um, that is something you could look into. The other thing people can look into, which makes a difference, and I know people are always like, it looks a little hideous, but it makes a huge difference, are blue light blocking glasses.
Yeah.
And often people have them, like I'm wearing, just like clear lenses. Those are more for like your computer time. The
Yeah.
other ones are more like the orangey hue lenses.
Mhm.
But if you're reading in bed, like, who's gonna see you? It's not that you're walking around the restaurant, right? So that is something that can really help with that for sure. To just help them. Will it make your page orange? Yes, but can you still read? Yes. And will it help just keep your melatonin where it is so you can sleep? Yes. Because if you have the lights on that come from up high, or the really bright, like these reading lamps that people click on books, a lot of them are LED, super bright blue light. It's like you're gonna kill your melatonin with that.
See, you guys hear that? Like, even that, you just have to put on these blue light glass. I'm putting some, I don't even know if these have the blue light. They're the caddis ones. I don't even know if they have it. How would I even find out? I'll have to go Google which one it is. Um, but thank you so much, Annika, because again, so many of my friends, I know so many people out there are struggling with sleep, because I really, it's the number one thing make us healthy, isn't it? It's like the number one thing you could put into your body. It's not going to the doctor and getting 500 prescriptions for all these other different drugs. It's literally just dumbing things down, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
not that complicated.
it's not complicated.
No. It's been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show, you guys. Everybody, if you're out there and you resonated with anything that Annika said and you want to get her help, I will again have all the ways to reach her right in the description, be able to click the little link and go right to her. And thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate it. You know what? I'm going to admit, I get up in the morning and I put on that iPad and I do sometimes scroll a little bit. As I said, I found you, but instead of doing that, I'm going to go outside first, then I'll climb back into bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Really just sunlight before screen light.
Okay, did you guys hear that? Sunlight before screen, and realize that when you put that alcohol in your system, would you ever have thought that your body goes into, oh my gosh, full, like, oh my gosh, I've got poison. I've got to fight this. I've got to fight this. I've got to fight this. You would never, ever think that. Never, because it's sold everywhere, but it really is not good for you. And remember that, you guys. Until next time, everybody, thanks again, Annika. And you guys can reach me anytime at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. Sign up for my newsletter. And until next time, everybody, keep getting busy, living sober. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.